Gaddafi was the leader of Libya for 42 years, according to the dailybeast.com. According to news.yahoo.com, Gaddafi died on March 8, 2011. Unfortunately, Libya was not prepared for life without Gaddafi, or the things that came with it. In the little over a year that has passed since Gaddafi died, there have been many good and bad things that have changed. Today I will tell you about the changes in government, the things that have stayed similar, and the opinions of the people. There have been many things for the good and bad that have changed for the government of Libya. Some of the good things that have changed have been that there has been not as much violence, according to the dailybeast.com. During Gaddafi's rule, there were many beatings and cruelties against people in his own country. And since this has occurred, there hasn't been as much of this that has occurred in Libya. Also, there are elections that will be occurring according to the dailybeast.com that are supposed to be occurring coming up here very shortly in order to elect new officials for their government. There are also some bad things that have occurred during this time since Gaddafi has died as well, though. For one, the government is very unstable. According to HeraldTribune.com, they were not well equipped for life after Gaddafi. They didn't have any backup plan for their government or anything like that. After Gaddafi was killed, there was some major wars that occurred over who was going to be in power next. And that caused a lot of tumult in the country. Also, according to news.yahoo.com, the future of Libya is very uncertain. Since it fell on such unprepared hands, we don't know what to expect for the future of Libya or how to expect that they will be able to survive on this new government that they're trying to set up. There are a few things that have stayed similar in Libya after Gaddafi died. One of the things is that there is still militant control, according to news.yahoo.com. This means that the government is still oppressing people, but it's not oppressing them as bad as under Gaddafi's rule. Also, there are many leaders that are similar to the leaders during Gaddafi's rule. This means that many of the people that are in power now were in power when people were being oppressed before under Gaddafi's rule. And it's uncertain at this time whether they will choose to act any differently or if they will continue this reign of terror that's been going on since during Gaddafi's rule. Also, the country is very fragmented, according to HeraldTribune.com. Before Gaddafi, Libya was a very fragmented country, but it is said that Libya is much more fragmented now than it was prior to Gaddafi even ruling it. So after Gaddafi came out of power and was killed, the country was worse off as far as its unitedness than before Gaddafi was in power. Many people have put their opinions in on this that live in this country since this has occurred to them. Many of the government officials think that it would be beneficial to just erase this time period from history, according to the dailybeast.com. They want to eliminate 42 years of Gaddafi's reign just because they're unhappy with how it looks in the history books and how it's portrayed. There were book burnings that occurred after Gaddafi died to eliminate this from history. And the person who is currently making up the history curriculum that is supposed to be enacted within the next school year, minus all of the information on Gaddafi, was the same person who wrote the history books during the time that Gaddafi was in power. This means that not a lot of it is going to end up being changed or being any different from how it was during Gaddafi's rule, only that portion of history, all the bad of that portion of history, will be taken out of the books so that students can no longer learn about it. According to another person that is also living in Libya, he said that there was a little Gaddafi in all of us, which meant that everybody living in Libya that in any way would be able to look back on this at all would still remember and still know about Gaddafi, no matter if they erased him from history or from the history books or not. And they would still pass that along just like they would any other story along to their children and grandchildren and everybody else. Unfortunately, if they do erase this from history, children in the future who are learning about the events that occurred after Gaddafi died won't understand why the people who were around during that time rebelled against the government that would be made to look like it was working perfectly well. Libya has had many different things occur since Gaddafi died. Some have helped and some have hindered them, but all will change their future forever. Much of their future has yet to be decided, and more will be clear as the government is decided.